In today's video we're going to be diving back into more Wuchang Fallen Feathers, and for this one I'm going to be putting out a build guide that's perfect for anyone who's heading into their endgame. This one's going to be great for your first kind of late end of your first run, and anyone who likes axe builds will love dishing out a whole bunch of fire damage, just absolutely tearing through your bosses and enemies alike. In the background you can see we'll be tearing up some of the bosses, absolutely decimating their health, and using what I believe is the most powerful axe in the game, which is going to be none other than the Scorn Great Axe. Now obviously this is a late game item, so you won't be able to put it together straight away at the very start of the game, but instead just use the Empyrean Axe until you can move straight into this one. The reason I like this one is because the skill move it's got on it, Combustion Cleaver, does a ridiculous amount of damage when you start putting it into your rotation, and honestly it's a lot of fun to see when you start using it on some of the tougher enemies and of course some of the biggest bosses in the game. The other discipline we've put on this is going to be Rampage, which is perfect for giving you a little bit of health back, but as well as that later on I'll go over one that you may want to swap in or swap out depending on the boss, as it can definitely help you to take out a few bosses a lot easier than normal. The other weapon we'll be using is going to be the Astral Blade, but basically this will just be a backup weapon. You'll only be using it if you want to dish out a little bit of extra damage or do something with your magic, but most times you will be using the axe. The other reason for using a one-hand sword would be if you haven't got enough time to build up Skyborn Might, you'll be able to use this to generate it just before the boss fights. Honestly, after a lot of play testing with some of the weapons in this game, this has to be one of my favourite ones, and when you start really investing in your build you can dish out a crazy amount of damage very fast, often bursting down the bosses in a very short period of time. Now going over the armour pieces, and sometimes you will want to swap these in or swap them out depending on what kind of boss you're coming up against, but most times a great one that I found was by having an avian piece of headgear and then by going for the full pirate setup afterwards. This made a very rounded build, and although you haven't got the highest mitigation for your physical, it was pretty much enough to take on all of the bosses that I'd encountered. If however you wanted a little bit of extra damage reduction, then you could always go for something like the Ming armour set. This is obtained early, but it's absolutely amazing for being able to equip and keep on all the way throughout your gameplay. Now for your pendants, there's quite a few options here, but the ones that I chose was going to be your Tiger Pendant to help with your overall physical attack damage, then the Peace Pendant, which is absolutely amazing for your blunt force, which is pretty much everything you've got going on in your axe, and then finally the Twin Infant Pendant, which is just ridiculously good at regaining your stamina. Over to your spells, and the main one you're going to want more than anything has to be Ethereal Form. This thing is borderline broken, it can auto dodge, you're going to get one Skyborn Might back, and it's something I could see them possibly nerfing in the future because of just how good it really is. Then if you want to, you can always put on Divine Might, that way you could use this just before you're going to go into your big skill move and do an additional bit of damage. Then any kind of spell you want to put here is up to you, this is kind of a toggle slot, but usually I'll put on one that's quite cheap, just in case I need to hit enemies from afar. And finally, in case you do want a bit of extra mitigation, you're going to have Divine Ward here, but most times I found that I didn't use this and instead tried to get a bit of health regen from my discipline and potion up whenever I needed to. For your item slots, honestly quite a standard affair going on. You're going to want to make sure you've got your potions, make sure you've got your tempering, and then for the two other item slots you can put in here whatever you find to use the most. I put fixed origin pills because I use them very often, especially when there's despair and such around, and an incense just in case I needed to build back up my extra 20% damage and XP. However, from time to time you might want to swap these out, and putting something in such as your Plume Branch can definitely help out if you want to start off with extra Sky Might against those bosses. Now this build works absolutely perfect and it's really fun to play. However, it's not an invincible build. I'll be putting something together for my New Game Plus that hopefully makes your life really easy, but for this one I wanted to make something that dished out a whole bunch of damage and was really fun at the end of your first playthrough. For that reason, because we want to enhance our damage even more, the main thing you want to do is to make sure you pick up the 3, the 6 and the 9 of the Disciplinary Force Benedictions. These are going to work out absolutely essential for boosting your damage, and ultimately they do more than pretty much all of your pendants combined, because having all 3 of these on means you're going to be able to pick up 30% from the actual Benedictions, and then once you get more disciplines going you'll be able to unlock the mastery of it, another 10% on top, giving you 40% extra damage for having all 3 of these Benedictions on. Then over to our tempering slots, you're going to want to make sure that you've got the fire on, because this is what's going to increase your damage of your actual axe. So whenever you're going into those boss fights, make sure you temper up, light your axe on fire and grab yourself a whole bunch of extra damage. Then for the needles, the best ones I found was going to be your Shadow Stone Strength Needle, be your Plume Stone Needle for extra attack power. The Everlight Stone Needle is definitely worth having, it's going to increase the actual duration of your temper. And then finally, last but not least, your Shadow Stone Needle, and this one's going to be Agility, just to give you a little bit of extra kick on your damage. You can swap this one out though if you want to, because it's not essential. So if you want to put the one that helps you to set things on fire a little bit faster, that one will also work great in this slot. Now finally, over to the skill tree, and I'll try and zoom out so you can get a kind of brief overview. But the main thing you want to do is spec into as many skill trees as you can, as long as they're going to provide you a massive amount of bonus to your damage, and obviously the big focus is going to be on your strength. But the main thing you want to do very first hand is going to make sure you go left hand side. Pick up as much as you can this side, because it's really going to help you out with your build, and hopefully by now you put quite a few into your skill nodes revolving around mana potions and tempering. You're going to want to have as many temper uses as possible, and as many uses of your potion, and of course you're also going to want to invest in regaining a whole bunch more health. Just keep making your way left, pick up as many nodes you need to, and the main thing you want to focus on is trying to make sure you pick up everything you can with the tempering, so upping your charges and such, and like I said, everything to do with your health potions. Being able to stay alive is going to be one of the main things in this game, so you're going to want to invest heavily in this left hand side tree. Then the main thing you're going to want to do, obviously we're going pure axe build, so axes is what you're going to be investing in most. And the first big slot you're probably going to unlock is going to be your tide turner, and now whenever you're doing your light attacks, which you'll be doing very often, on the third hit you're going to regain a little bit of stamina. Shudder and Crush is also amazing if you ever need to attack with a heavy move, but most times you're going to be using your light attacks unless you're trying to hit the enemy from behind and such. Don't forget to enhance the damage of your axe whenever you can by upping its mastery, but the main big node you want to invest in is going to be this discipline skill over here, which is going to be Earth Shatter. Even though I haven't shown it in the build, this is something you may want to swap to from time to time, because certain bosses in this game tend to disrupt your flow of when you're hitting them. And once you use this one, especially when you've unlocked its special nodes to each side, it means you're going to get a whole bunch of extra poise on your build, and you're nigh unstoppable whenever you're doing your swings of your axe. On certain bosses you may want to put it in and take off the one that's giving us a bit of health regen. From there, just grab as much damage as possible. Obviously strength is going to be your main thing you're after, and axe and hooks, one you're definitely going to have to pick up, as it's going to help with your clash moves, which is essential in most builds, but especially this kind of build where you're going to be tapping LB very constantly. Then keep making your way up and round. And for our main discipline, obviously we'll be using Rampage. Just helps you to get a bit of damage, but also does that big old swing, so if you're able to get behind people you can do a nice bit of damage or completely knock them up in the air. Then keep making your way all the way around, pick up as much strength as possible, and of course if you need to, as many discipline nodes as possible as well, just to make sure you're able to unlock your Benedictions. After that, one of the things you want to do is just invest one node into your one-handed sword tree, because this is going to help you generate Skyborn Might whenever you're running low, and it's perfect for if you're going into a boss fight and you want to generate some just before you go in. Then you're going to head down on the longsword tree, and the main thing you'll be doing here is just unlocking as much as possible with those strength nodes, and of course if you need them, as many disciplines as possible in order to make the Benedictions work again. With your agility as well, this is also going to enhance your damage, so I don't think they're not worth investing in. It's just that strength works out overall a little bit better, because that's what the axe primarily scales off of. And finally, make your way down into the spear tree. Try to pick up an absolute bundle in here, because you get an awful lot of strength nodes, so just keep picking up as many as you've got for your points, and of course try and enhance your damage and your stamina a little bit on the way as well. I found trying to have around about 1500 in your health worked out perfect, and of course make sure you've got enough stamina so that you can keep swinging away and doing your hits, dishing out a lot of damage, having a lot of fun in the process. But yeah, overall I was really enjoying this build by the end of my runs, and although you can definitely get caught out from time to time, so you might need to learn a bit of the enemy's tactics and such, as long as you're using your ethereal form and timing things right, you should be able to take down bosses very fast and easily, especially if they're weaker to fire, and just make sure you're using your skill move as often as you possibly can. But yeah, hopefully you've enjoyed the content. As always, there'll be a load more coming up from me. For now, take care, I'll see you on the next day.